People had been at war for what seemed like forever. A never-ending battle against an extraterrestrial empire that spanned more stellar systems than anyone could count. From the very start, it was evident this enemy was unlike anything the human race had ever encountered. The alien empire's technology was centuries ahead. Their ships mobilized faster, hit harder, and were almost immune to the weapons mankind had built. After years of desperate innovation, humanity's warships had grown massive, colossal vessels stretching across the stars. But still, with an iron grip, the galaxy slipped away. Humanity had been on the defensive since the beginning. The early years of the conflict were marked by devastating losses. One colony after another fell. The alien invaders appeared unstoppable. Their dominance went unchallenged as they pushed deeper into human space. Hope faded. Voices calling for surrender grew louder, especially among those who couldn't see a path to victory. Despite humanity's legendary resilience, many believed the aliens were simply superior. Resources were overstretched. Commanders were scrambling for answers. Tactics shifted from offense to barely holding the line. Entire star systems were sacrificed just to buy time for evacuations. The war effort was left to burn along with the hopes, lives, and futures of millions. The weight of desperation became a heavy burden on every soldier, every commander, and every civilian still holding on to the fragile hope that somehow they might survive. This was not a war of swift battles. This was a war of attrition, and humanity was losing ground. Yet among the chaos, legends emerged. Leaders who defied the odds. Pilots who returned from missions no one should have survived. These were humanity's best, forged in the crucible of war, raised to the status of living myths. They became symbols of resistance, the last defense, the ones launching counterattacks against an enemy that looked unstoppable. They were heroes, but even heroes couldn't reverse a war that had been lost before it began. And yet whispers spread through the ranks. Rumors of something else, a secret project long in development. No one knew the details, only that it offered hope, a chance. Some said humanity had been building something. Not just a weapon, but a fleet. A fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was designed not for defense, but for one purpose, attack. A final, devastating blow to the heart of the alien empire. Few knew of its existence. Hidden in the darkest reaches of space where no enemy would think to look, the project was the result of desperation and determination. It was humanity's last, best hope. Not just a fleet, but a miracle. While the alien empire prepared what they believed would be the final strike to wipe out humanity, those in the know waited for the signal, because the fleet was ready. Every calculation run, every scenario tested, every commander briefed. The best minds, the finest warriors, all prepared to strike and turn the tide of war. Humanity was on the brink of extinction. But in that darkness, a spark remained. The alien empire, blinded by overconfidence, didn't see what was coming. The time had come. The elite strike fleet, humanity's hidden ace, moved into position. This wasn't just another military maneuver. This was the culmination of everything humanity had left to give. The fleet had been hidden. Its existence erased from all records. Its mission, break the enemy's will to fight. Its design, revolutionary. With stealth technology that rendered them nearly invisible, these ships could slip past enemy lines undetected. With advanced propulsion, they moved faster than anything before them. With precision-guided weapons, they struck hard, fast, and accurately. These were not just warships. These were surgical tools, engineered for one moment, one strike, one outcome, victory. The crew, humanity's finest. Pilots with nerves of steel. Engineers who turned miracles into reality. Strategists who made brilliance out of scraps. They weren't just soldiers. They were the last hope of the human race, and they knew it. The history of the elite strike fleet dated back to the war's earliest days, when traditional strategies had clearly failed. A group of visionaries, scientists, generals, thinkers, had conceived a daring plan to fight on humanity's terms, not the enemy's. The fleet would remain hidden until the enemy was fully committed, fully overextended, and fully unprepared. Then, and only then, would the fleet emerge from the shadows and strike. The goal wasn't just to hurt the Empire. It was to destroy their ability to wage war, to rip out their command structures, shatter their supply lines, and break their will. For years they waited, each day watching the alien fleet grow closer to Earth, each day holding the line, praying for the moment. And then that moment came. The alien empire gathered its fleet for what it believed would be the final assault, the blow to end humanity. What they didn't know was that humanity had been waiting for this. As the alien fleet approached, the command was given. The elite strike fleet began to move, unseen, unheard, until it was too late. The skies split open. Humanity's hidden armada emerged, sleek, silent, and unstoppable. They struck with terrifying precision. Weapons depots, communication arrays, command centers, all obliterated in moments. The alien war machine, built on arrogance and overconfidence, was thrown into chaos. The final assault on Earth became a desperate scramble for survival. Humanity's secret was no longer hidden. And it was stronger than anyone had imagined. In that moment, the impossible became reality. The war could be won. The Empire could fall, and humanity could rise. The aliens struggled to understand how their careful plans had fallen apart in a moment. They had been ready to launch a final offensive and endeavor to bring the war to a close in their favor, but now they found themselves the target of an assault more devastating than anything they could have anticipated. The battle's level of intensity was staggering. The top-tier strike fleet moved with lethal grace. Ships maneuvered with precise, timed actions. Each strike was calculated, every shot carefully aimed. Despite their size and power, the aliens were simply outclassed. The superior tactics and advanced technology of the human fleet were overwhelming. The aliens tried to put up a fight, but their efforts were futile. Their vessels were outperformed, their firearms outgunned, their movements outmaneuvered. The pilots, trained by humans for this very moment, executed their missions with cold, detached focus. The initial blow was disastrous, but the human navy didn't back down. Strike after strike followed, each one further undermining the alien empire's ability to respond. What had once been a mighty fleet was reduced to scattered wreckage, ships grounded or destroyed, littered across the battlefield. And the situation on the ground wasn't any better. Critical military installations, once the backbone of the alien war machine, were now nothing more than smoking ruins. The infrastructure that had fueled their military might, shattered. The Empire's confidence collapsed with it. As the dust settled, the true extent of the destruction became clear. The elite strike fleet had not just won a battle. They had delivered a blow that would echo across the galaxy. So certain in its dominance, the alien empire now faced collapse. Its leadership was in shambles. What began as a war of attrition had become humanity's path to dominance. The shock of the attack reverberated far beyond the battlefield. The once invincible alien empire had been brought to its knees, and within mere hours, the enormity of the defeat became undeniable. This was no fluke. This was human will forged into steel. A message loud and clear: humanity would not disappear into the dark. We had the strength, the technology, and the resolve to defend ourselves, and we had just proven it in the most dramatic way imaginable. This was perhaps only the beginning. The war wasn't over, but the objective was clear. The alien empire was crippled from above, and the strike fleet was ready to finish what it started. As the galaxy watched, the full might of humanity was unveiled. There was no going back. What once seemed unwinnable was now entirely under human control. The destructive force of the fleet's elite strike had been catastrophic. What began as a confident march to victory for the aliens had quickly become a nightmare. Their command structure, once rigid and effective, had crumbled. Officers couldn't communicate. They couldn't even grasp the scale of the catastrophe. Panic spread. Troops who had believed themselves unstoppable were in chaos. The empire had been overthrown in mere hours, fleets left leaderless, ground forces without orders. The empire's vital communication networks, once its lifeblood, were annihilated in the initial wave. Distress messages flooded the remaining channels, but without central coordination, no help came. Disciplined and well-organized alien units were now isolated, surviving alone amidst the wreckage. But the elite strike fleet wasn't done. It pressed the attack, targeting the infrastructure that sustained the alien empire. One by one, core governmental and military sites were destroyed. Shipyards, supply depots, research centers, all reduced to ruins. The empire's ability to resist was shattered. Their leaders, once revered and feared, now found themselves gripped by doubt and dread. They had underestimated humanity, and now they faced the consequences. Reports of devastation poured in from across the empire's territory, each one bleaker than the last. The leaders who had believed themselves untouchable were now confronting their own mortality and the collapse of everything they had built.